Good morning. Myself Dr.P.Ramya, Associate Professor working in Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Now we are going to talk about database management systems. We are going to see about introduction, applications and advantages of DBMS over file system, levels of abstraction, data models and database languages. First we see what is DBMS. DBMS it is about database management systems. In the data it stands for the information. Generally we say everything as data. Data it stands it as information. For example, in the table we can mention employee name, marks of the student, age of the student. Those are the things we are generally calling it as data. That is one of the information. The collection of data in order to store and retrieve the data it is called as database. The data are stored in the database. We can store the data and also we can retrieve the data. The overall DBMS it is called as a computerized data keeping system. The main purpose of the database is to operate a large amount of information by storing, retrieving and managing the data. Okay, why we are going for the DBMS? We have 7 different reasons. Advantages of DBMS over file systems: data redundancy and inconsistency, difficulty in accessing data, data isolation, integrity problems, atomicity problems, concurrent access by multiple users, security problems. Now we see one by one about it. First one it is data redundancy and inconsistency. What do you mean by data redundancy? Redundancy generally we used to call it as duplication. If duplication occurs, the data it will be difficult to access generally. So if we are storing any data in the files, different programmers will store the data, the different file systems will be used, the structures also may vary. Different programmers use the different programming languages. So what happens, each one will store the data. For example, in this example you can see that employee ID 101, that is primary key we are considering. If you are using the file system, that 101 again you can be store it once again. But in case of DBMS, with the constraint, you cannot store the data once again in a repeated manner. First 2 rows you can check it out for the example. So that kind of duplications can be avoided while using with the data redundancy. While you are going for the redundancy concept, duplication if you are using it, higher storage will be consumed and access cost also will be high. So better to go with the DBMS as per the first concept. Second one, difficulty in accessing data. Now if you want to access some particular data, we will be having the large data items. From the large data items, if for example you can have this example, find out all students who resides in a particular city, find out all students who gain 25 credits, or list both the conditions. These kind of conditions we can give while accessing the data. File systems are not convenient and not efficient and while using with the constraints. So better to go with the DBMS. Third one, data isolations. While going with the different programmers with the file systems and structures, data will be scattered in different files. Files may be in a different locations. So from the different locations, it is difficult to take the data in a file system. Fourth one, integrity problems. Integrity problems mainly focusing on consistency constraints. What do you mean by consistency constraints? We can give some particular conditions to follow. For example, account balance should not be 0. If I give account balance should not be 0, the condition has to be satisfied. But in case of the file system, it is difficult to follow the conditions. But in case of DBMS, you can add new constraints or you can remove the constraint, whatever way you want, you can do it. That is about the integrity problem. One it is atomicity problem. Atomicity problem it is any system is subject to failure. Restoration of data is very important. For example, you can consider the fund transfer. Fund transfer, for example, 2 users are transferring the account from A to account B. I am transferring the amount. Whether it has to be debited and credited, both the sides the transaction has to happen, or both the sides transaction should not be happen. That's what we are saying. Atomicity, it means that atomic, it means all transaction has to be done or none of the transactions has to be done. That is easy while doing with the DBMs. Sixth one, concurrent access by multiple users. Concurrency is good, may lead to inconsistency. So this kind of examples you can have. Concurrent access, generally we used to say it is very easy to access while going with the multiple users, but in case of file system it will be little bit difficult, so better to go with the DBMS. Last one, security problems. Security problems, data accesses needed authentication and authorization. These two things are important while going with the security concepts. If for example, if we identify whether the right user is accessing the system or not, we need to identify. That is very important, whatever data you are accessing it. For that we need authorization and authentication. Generally we know that nowadays whatever concepts you are using, even though mobile phones we have started using passwords and biometric system, face recognition system, all those things. So whatever databases or data, security is very important. For that purpose, DBMS is very secure one while using with the authorization and authentication concepts. Now, and then here we have one more advantage while going with the DBMS. Here we have multiple views in the DBMS, but in case of file system, you don't have any views. But in case of DBMS, whatever data, whatever columns you need, that alone you can separate it and you can show it. So that multiple view will be very useful in the DBMS concept. Enforcing access is enforcing access constraint in the DB file systems are very difficult. So these are about the DBMS versus file system. Next concept we are going to see about applications. Generally, what are the applications we are seeing in the DBMS? Where are the general concepts now we are using in a banking, airline systems, universities and railways and finance. These are the places nowadays we started using with the DBMS concepts. This everyone knows about it, so I am not going to explain about all those. Next one, levels of abstraction. What do you mean by abstraction? Hiding the complexity. Levels of abstraction, in that abstraction in the sense hiding the complexity, relevant data shown, irrelevant data are not shown. That is the use of abstraction. Here we have three different levels of abstraction. What are the levels? Physical, logical and view. These are the three different levels. Physical level it is called as internal level. Logical level it is talking about conceptual level. View level it is talking about the external level. Internal level, it always tells about defining how the data is actually stored. And logical level, it talks about what data are stored in the database. View level, it talks about which level the end user interaction. This only it is used for the end user interaction because we may be using with the single view or multiple views. For example, while taking the amount from the ATM, whatever columns you want, if you want to withdraw the amount, that particular columns alone will be shown. If you want to see the last 10 transactions, that alone will be shown. So whatever columns you want, that alone will be shown. That is the use of view level. It is used for the security purpose and also it is for the end user interaction. Next is about data model. Data model, we have 5 different levels of data model. Entity relationship model, relational model, hierarchical model, network model, object oriented data model. First we are going to see about entity relationship model. Entity relationship model, it is talking about only about the entities, attributes, relationship. Entity, attributes and relationship. It represents the real world problem in the pictorial form. It is always represented in the pictorial form. Here we have 3 different keywords. One is entity, another one is attribute, third one is relationship. Entity, it is talking about the thing in a real world. Attributes, it is properties that describe the entities. Generally we have entities and attributes are connected with the arrow marks and the relationships also used. Generally attributes, it has 2 different types of attributes. One is simple attribute, another one is composite attributes. Simple attributes can be divided in further, cannot be divided further. For example, if you are mentioning about your weight and about your age, these are the things can be divided. But in case of composite attributes, it can be divided further. For example, if you are taking your name, you can mention first name, last name, middle name. This way you can divide it. So that is called as composite attribute. For example, you can see this teacher and department, it is about the entities that is represented in the rectangle form. And about teacher name, teacher ID, department ID, all these things are considered as attributes. What's for it is relationship. The relationship it is mentioned between teacher and the department. These are called as entity relationship model. So it is represented in the pictorial form. Second one, it is about the relational model. Relational model, it is widely used model nowadays. It is maintained in the form of table. All the informations are stored in the form of rows and column, as I mentioned in this example. This is the method nowadays we started using it. Next is about hierarchical model. This model organizes the data in the hierarchical tree structure. The hierarchy starts from the root, which has root data, and then it expands in the form of a tree, adding child node to the parent node. Here we are having one to many relationships. Fourth one, it is talking about the network model. But while comparing with third one, network model, it has one extra condition, that is a parent can have more than one parent. A record can have more than one parent. It is an extension of the hierarchical model. For example, here you can see student node, it is having two parent node. One is about CSE department, another one is library. Node student has two parents, CSE department, another one is library. This was not possible in the case of hierarchical model. Last one, it is about object oriented data model. Both the data and relationships are present in the single structure known as an object. Here two or more objects are connected through the links. In this example, we can see that employee attribute we have, employee entity we have, and department we have. Both are connected with the help of department ID. This department ID is considered as primary key. Through this department ID, both the columns are connected, both the attributes are connected. So through this we can access the data and columns, and methods also can be accessed. Next we are going to see about database languages. In the database languages, we have four different languages: data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, transaction control language. We see one by one. First one about data definition language. Data definition language we have, it is mainly used for defining the database structure. Here we have 5 different keywords: create, alter, drop, truncate, and rename. Create, it is used to create the objects in the database. Whatever objects you want to create, this is the first step you have to use for creating the objects. Second, if you want to do any alter in the structure, you can go with the concept of alter. Drop, it is used to delete the objects from the database. Truncate, it is used for removing all records from the table. Rename is used for renaming the objects. Already we have created some particular object. If you want to rename it, you can go with the concept of rename. Second, it is about DML. DML is used for accessing and manipulating data in a database. Here we have 4 keywords: select, insert, update, and delete. Here what we are doing is, already we have created the data, already we created the objects and database, everything is done. From that we are going to access. If you want to do any modification, you can use through the DML concept. So here first one is select. Select is used to retrieve data from the database. Insert, it is used for inserting data into the table. Whatever data you want to insert, you can do it, and also with the conditions also you can insert the data. For the update existing data within a table. Already we are having some particular data, that if you want to update it with the conditions, you can update it. Delete, it is used to delete all the records from your table. Third one, DCL. DCL is used to retrieve the stored or saved data. Here we have 2 conditions. This is used for authentication and authorization. One is grant, another one is revoke. It is used to give user access privilege to a database. Revoke, it is used for getting back the permission from the user. Last one, it is about TCL. TCL is to run the changes made by the DML statements. 2 concepts: commit and rollback. Commit is for saving the transaction. Rollback, it will restore the database to the original state from the commit state. Summing up, these are about, we had talked about defining about the DBMS. We had seen about data, what is database and DBMS. These are all about the information, and we had seen about advantages of DBMS over file system. We are having applications in different areas: banking and networking and all those things. Levels of abstraction we had seen: low level, high level, medium level, high level, and all those. And data models, we had seen about 5 different models. Database languages, we seen about DDL, DML, DCL, TCL, all those. These kind of the questions can be asked from the part whatever we covered it. For example, in a 2-mark questions can be asked what is database management system, what is database, level of the abstraction. If they are just asked about level of abstraction, you can just mention. If they ask for the explanation, you can give whole, everything with the diagrams. And you can mention we have 7 different advantages of DBMS. You can compare with the file system, and also you can mention. If they ask about the, just mention the data model, just mention about what are the models you have. Suppose if they ask in a 1-mark questions, you can explain it about what are the models you have, and then you can explain about the theory part, and with the diagram and example you can explain it in a better way. How many types of database languages are. While going with the database languages, you can mention what are the commands, what is the use of it, and then you can give one particular query, and with the tabular column you can mention what is the output it will give. So at least for a page you can give it for this. Thank you.